Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I thought that I would talk about C-sections. That's probably one of the most requested videos I get, and the most questions I get is just how my C-section went, how was recovery, what to expect during a C-section. So I thought that this would be the perfect time to sit down and answer some questions and talk about what to expect, what happened in my situation, just healing. So let's get right into it. So for me, I have had 3 C-sections. I have a son that is 6, a daughter, Kensington, that is 4, and I have twin 1-year-olds. So I just want to kind of talk about my experience with each one. Obviously, my first pregnancy, the first time you're pregnant, you're constantly Googling vaginal delivery. At least for me, I'm like watching videos, watching C-section videos. I don't know what to expect. Like, when are you gonna go into labor? What's gonna happen? I seriously feel like I was calling my doctor, emailing my doctor, or something like every week. I'm like such a spaz when I'm pregnant. So for me, I just try to like mentally prepare as much as I can. And so when it came to my son and being pregnant, he was a week overdue. I had him at 41 weeks. We checked into the hospital. As I got to the hospital, I was getting checked and they were like, you're in labor. So whether you were gonna be here or not, you would have like ended up here tonight, which is crazy because I didn't even know that I had started going into labor. So they did give me some medication to help kind of like speed things up a little bit. And when it was time to push, so I went from like, I don't remember how many centimeters to 10 though, very quickly. Like by the time I like checked in, I was like ready to push like very, very fast. So I started pushing and I pushed for 3 hours. I was exhausted. I felt like I was gonna pass out. I didn't know if I could do it, but I had been pushing for so long that I was like, you have to let me finish. But Preston was sunny side up, so he was flipped upside down and his head was stuck underneath my pelvic bone, but you could like see his head. And the doctors were like, you've hit your limit, it's been 3 hours, like we need to go into a C-section. And at that time I was like, I can do this, like I've been pushing for 3 hours, like let me just try, I'm gonna get him out. So I started pushing again and I just could not get him out, so I had to have an emergency C-section. At that time, like I was already numb and everything, so they took me in, and he was born like less than a minute, I feel like. I don't know how long exactly it took, but they cut you open. I saw him, he was perfect, everything was great. But yeah, it was just insane to me because I basically went through experiencing both. Like his head was right there when I was trying to push and deliver him vaginally. So I was like sore down there and was sore with the C-section. And so my experience the first time around was obviously not ideal. Like I know it's completely like out of your control. What's gonna happen is gonna happen. But recovery was not awful, to be honest, because I didn't know what to expect. What was hardest for me is like, I'm such a control freak and I want to be able to get up and like do everything on my own. Like I'm not very good at asking for help. So I think going into this, I just tell you to like have an open mind. If this is your first pregnancy, like for me, I didn't have a birth plan, and I personally think that's the best way to do it, because if you have a birth plan of how you want everything to go, like specifically, like just know more than likely it's not going to happen. So for me, I think just being open-minded and just knowing going into it, like as long as my baby is delivered safe and healthy, like it's out of my control. So but yeah, so that was the hardest for me, is you can't get up and like walk around. I was extremely nauseous from all of the medication, which was really hard. And Nate had to do everything. Like I wanted to be able to get up and like change his diapers and everything. So that was really hard for me. And recovery honestly wasn't that bad. They do get you like up and walking around to like make you feel better. But it is hard. Like I remember getting up from the hospital bed and I literally was like hunched over and like trying to walk like this. I felt like I had like just had a tummy tuck or something, which is crazy. So yeah, that was a little difficult, I think, but all in all, it was not as bad as I thought. And obviously I was willing to do it again, because for my second pregnancy with Kensington, I was like, I don't want to go through that again. I don't know if she'll get stuck. I don't want to push for 3 hours. So I was like, sign me up for a C-section. So that was a whole different experience. I had the date booked. Everything was just so calm, which I liked. We went into the hospital, like we had a time that we checked in. They came in to give me the epidural, which they do have your husband leave the room, so don't freak out when it's time for the epidural. Because whenever they asked Nate to leave, I was like, no, leave him in here, like it's fine, he's not gonna faint or anything, it's okay. But they do ask him to leave, probably just because they want to focus. They can't have you like moving or anything when they're putting in the epidural in your back. But when you Google like epidurals and stuff, I feel like people always like want to scare you. Like anything you read, don't. Dr. Google is not good. Like, and I still have not learned my lesson, because with my pregnancy with the twins, I still was Googling everything, and my doctors were like, stop Googling everything. I'm like, I can't. But anyways, the epidural was really not that bad. They took me in, and I personally like to watch surgery. That's my background, is in like the medical field and working for plastic surgeons. So I enjoy like watching it. It's very interesting to me. So I was like, can I watch the whole thing? And they let me watch it, which was amazing. And they let me like record everything. Nate was recording the whole process, which I have heard some hospitals don't let you record. And that was really important to me, and nobody said anything. So Nate was recording, I was watching the C-section happen, and everything like went smoothly. And the second time around is much easier than the first. I think just because I knew what to expect. Maybe your body's just kind of remembers everything, but I was like up and walking very, very quickly. The recovery was like not bad at all. Like I felt good. I wasn't taking a bunch of pain medication. I think I took like Tylenol or ibuprofen, and like that's it. Still the same thing though, like right away, you're not gonna be up and walking like the second after you have a C-section. So just prepare for that. You're gonna have to have your husband or your boyfriend or whoever help you like change diapers and stuff. But for me, it was just so smooth. Recovery was great. They do tell you to like not walk upstairs, not to carry anything heavy, not to drive your car for a certain amount of time. But yeah, but follow your doctor's rules, be good. Don't try to carry too much or anything like that. Cause I was always worried, like, am I doing too much? Am I gonna like bust open like my stitches or anything like that? And none of that ever happened. My C-section scars have all healed very well. My second C-section wasn't the best. And then I got pregnant with the twins, and I knew I was gonna have a C-section. I think even if I had an option to do vaginally or a C-section, for me, I would just choose a C-section. I like having things planned, knowing when to show up to the hospital, how everything's gonna go, and that's just kind of how things are for me. For a twin pregnancy, it's so different. So whether you're doing vaginally or having a C-section, from what I've heard from other twin moms, is you could be having a vaginal delivery for one baby, and then the second baby you end up having to have a C-section. So I think the unknown of that, like whether I was choosing vaginally or a C-section, I would probably just try to do a C-section anyways. But for my case, it was the safest to not try to do a VBAC, obviously for a third pregnancy and with twins. So I did have a C-section. I didn't know when I was gonna have the twins. Some twins are born super early, some make it to term, which they want you to try to make it to like 37, 38 weeks. For me, I went in for my 36-week appointment, and they were doing the ultrasound, and the doctor thought that one of the amniotic sacs looked low, so he was like, we're checking you into the hospital tomorrow. The next day I was gonna be exactly 36 weeks. I remember going home panicking and being like, oh my gosh, we're gonna have the babies tomorrow. But it was nice just knowing, like, I had a day and a time set. I walked in with a twin C-section. It's totally different though. So if you are a mom of multiples that's watching this, just know you're gonna have an audience. Like, I remember walking in and they just have the biggest staff and like team of medical professionals, which does make you feel amazing. Like I loved it, but I just remember them strolling me into the operating room and I was like sitting up on the table, and I'm not even kidding. I'll have to try to find some footage and like put it in right here so you guys can see it. But there was a team of like 20 people in there. There were 2 doctors, there were tons of nurses, because obviously they need enough staff for both babies. But I just remember sitting in the operating room and it's so cold and you're like sitting there freezing and you are just like nervous and you just want to see your babies. And I remember everybody in the room going around being like, hi, I'm Nikki. Hi, I'm Tom. Hi, I'm so-and-so. And I was just like, oh my gosh, there's so many people in this room. But everything went great. I wanted to watch the twins being born as well, and I did. And the anesthesiologist was great. Like I get really like sick from anesthesia. So if you tend to get like motion sickness or anything like that, definitely tell your anesthesiologist, because they will give you extra medication to help you to make sure you do not get sick. So for me, I was like, I usually throw up, get really nauseous. I don't want to feel like that. And so they did give me a certain medication to help with that, which helped so much. They'll usually play music for you, which is great. So you can play like relaxation music or country music, like whatever you prefer to help like keep your mind off of things. And so everything was just very calm and peaceful, surprisingly, even though I was like a nervous wreck because the twins were only 36 weeks. I didn't know if they were going to need NICU time. One of the twins, which is Ellison, she was smaller like throughout the end of my pregnancy. And so obviously like when they do the ultrasounds and stuff and take measurements, it's just a guesstimate. So give or take usually like a pound or 2. So I didn't know like how tiny she was going to be. The craziest thing with the twins C-section is I remember there was 2 doctors and I'm like laying there. And I remember looking down and they like made the incision for the twins. And I just remember the doctor going, oh my goodness. And I was like, what? And she was like, right when I made the incision, baby A's head was like right there, like looking up. And she was like, I kind of like nicked her just a little bit, but it's okay. And I was like, what do you mean you nicked her? Like where? And so Vivian, when they did the C-section, since her face was literally like right there, they accidentally like nicked with a scalpel like right under her eye. And I was like freaking out. I was like, is she gonna have vision problems? Did it hit her eye? And the doctor was like, no, it's like barely anything and it's right like underneath her eye. But poor Vivian, so she like came out and like she instantly bruised and had like a bruise and was like all swollen under her eye. But that definitely freaked me out a little bit. But it was just crazy that the second she like cut me open, like her head was like right there. So they took Vivian out and within 60 seconds they were born. 1 minute exactly apart from each other. Ellison was out, both the girls were healthy and wonderful and everything was great. And Nate was videotaping the whole time, which was awesome. So he was able to go between both of the girls and see what was going on while I was like getting stitched up and everything. And they just took really great care of me. The twins came out being 4.5 and 5.5 pounds. So Ellison was a little bit smaller. But I got to, I know a lot of moms have the question of like, do I get to hold my baby right away when I have a C-section? And I've always gotten to. They brought the twins over to me right away, which was so special. And they placed both of them like on my shoulders. And it was just such a magical, amazing moment. I didn't feel nauseous or anything. I've heard some moms mentioning before, like when I've had C-sections, like I've been able to feel like a lot of pressure and it was still kind of uncomfortable. For me, that's never been the case. I've never felt uncomfortable. Like, it's really hard to explain. Like you can kind of feel like pressure, but it doesn't hurt. Like you can almost feel them like kind of pushing on your stomach, but it's not painful. Like I've always been extremely comfortable during my C-sections. So after that, like with my 3rd C-section, I felt like even with that one, like I healed much quicker. They had me up and walking like almost immediately. So I was able to help change the twins, which was so nice for me. I didn't feel like I was like missing out on anything, especially having 2 because you need to like double team. So I feel like we always had an audience of like lots of nurses and stuff helping us with the twins. And I was nervous too. I'm like, I don't know what to do with like 2 babies. The only thing with me is with my C-section with the twins, there there was like a lot of blood still like passing through, and so they had to come, and I don't remember exactly why. I wonder if I could figure out like the medical term of like what it was. But I had like some blood clots or something, and so they had to come in and press on my stomach to get like, and really hard to get them to come out. And honestly, that was the worst part. That was like really uncomfortable, and they had to come in like often to push and make sure like when they pushed, no blood was coming out. And for a few times there was blood passing still. So that was honestly like the worst of it. I wasn't nauseous or anything. My blood pressure did go up, so they had to give me some medication for that. But besides that, it really wasn't that bad. If I was gonna have a fourth pregnancy, like I would be fine doing another C-section, but we're not having any more children. I did decide to they gave me the option to get my tubes tied or my tubes taken out. I got them taken out. My doctor that was doing the C-section told me that with getting them removed, they can check to make sure you don't have any like cancer or anything in your tubes, because I guess a lot of women can get some cancer in their tubes. So that way it's just, they're able to take it out, make sure everything looks great, and you will not have any more pregnancies when you get your tubes tied. I think there's still like a small percentage that you can still get pregnant. And so I just got my tubes taken out. There was no difference. I didn't feel like my C-section was like any harder or anything like that. Oh, and it was crazy. Like when, just thinking back, when they were taking out my placenta, I remember the doctors were like, oh, that's really interesting. Like, so when I was pregnant with the twins, with my placenta, you either have one placenta or two placentas. They thought I had two placentas the whole time, but then when I gave birth and they took the placenta out, it looked like one placenta. So they were like, we needed to send this to pathology to see if it's two that fused into one, or if it's just one placenta. So it was really cool because, again, for me and like my medical background, I thought it was just really neat that they were like, the doctor was like showing me my placenta. And when they took me into like the recovery area, she took out my placenta, was like showing me like the anatomy of it, and was like going over everything with me, and was like teaching the nurses about it. And I just thought it was really, really cool. So I have to put in some video of that right here so you guys can see, because I just thought it was like really neat that she was going over that with me. Also, there was like a spot on my placenta that she was like, this could be a sign that originally there were triplets. And I was like, what? It's so crazy. So she was like showing us that. So that was just really, really neat. I'll insert some videos so you guys can watch it. You might be interested in it, but if you don't like bloody medical stuff, then make sure to fast forward.
So yeah, it is big. So it's proportional to the baby. So this is the baby side, and you can kind of see it's really hard to tell whether that looks to me like one placenta. Sometimes if we have two, if they're close together, there'll be a ditch in there. But I think the pathologist has to look.
Okay.
To be side. And that's the part that people say is ugly and looks like liver. This is what the membranes look like. Isn't that amazing how thin that is? That holds that back. And baby sits in here in a clean bag of water, and each one was in their own bag, so we had to pop baby bees. And all of these blood vessels form 3 blood vessels that come out the cord. The other baby's sac, and you can kind of see how this is more centrally located. And you can kind of see the membranes came off the middle.
That's so crazy.
Wow.
Yeah,
Cool.
but that's pretty interesting. And see how this cord, really, the Wharton's jelly goes all the way, so it's not a filamentous attachment.
Wow.
All right.
So interesting.
And I think this might be calcified. At first I thought, well, maybe that was a triplet. Uh-oh. See, this is messy.
Another thing for me that I really like is having a like compression garment on after you have a C-section. Everything is just kind of loose, your skin is loose, and just having everything like sucked in just feels like really good. At least for me it does. And I don't think a lot of people know that hospitals have surgical binders. So if you don't want to order one, when you're at the hospital after giving birth, just ask your nurse if you can have one, and they'll give one to you. I did that with Kensington and with the twins. They had no problem with it, and they found me one. So yeah, that's really nice. They don't fit like the best. You could definitely order some that like fit nicer, because the ones at least they gave me were like very stiff. They're like white and stiff. I wonder if I have one. I'll have to go look if I still have it. But also just buying anything that's tight, like tight tank tops felt good. I love the Lululemon A-line leggings just because they come up really high and they kind of like suck everything in. So just like having everything in just feels so much better. So I highly suggest putting something along those lines in your hospital bag or asking when you're in the hospital, because I promise it's just gonna make you feel much more comfortable. And then also after a C-section, you don't want anything to hit your C-section scar, obviously. So again, the like high-waisted leggings are perfect. I always buy like specific panties that come up higher just so I know nothing is going to be like rubbing on my C-section scar. And then also you can get these like silicone pads that go over your scar that are supposed to help with like flattening your C-section scar and just like the healing of it. So I'll look all of that up and link it down below for you guys, and just like a list of must-haves that I think you should have when going into the hospital for labor or preparing for a C-section. That definitely helped me out. I think another thing to prepare for too is you want to stay ahead of your pain management. I have a really high pain tolerance, so for me, any type of surgeries or anything like that, I'm always like, oh, I'm fine, like I can handle it, I don't need anything, I'll just take some Tylenol. But that being said, I think it is good to give yourself some grace. You just had a baby, like take care of yourself, obviously, and don't try to be like super tough like I do. It's okay to take some medication to help so you're comfortable. It's okay to take Tylenol or ibuprofen. So just listen to your body, listen to your nurse, and stay ahead of it. That's one thing the nurses are always going to suggest, is staying ahead of your pain. So for me, they would come in and be like, oh, we're going to give you another dose of medication. And I'd be like, no, I'm fine. Like, I don't need it, because they're trying to stay on top of it and get ahead of it before the medication wears off. So just know, if they're asking you to take the medication, it's okay to take it. And so I always usually take some pain medication like right up front, like after the surgery. But like after you've had your C-section, you're so numb, you're not feeling anything. So obviously you like feel good. You're like, oh, this doesn't hurt at all. But once the numbing wears off, it does get sore. So definitely just pain management, like stay on top of it. Drink lots of water. After I do take a few doses of pain medication, I end up just switching over to like Tylenol or ibuprofen, whatever they give you. Because for me, it's honestly like not that bad. You just feel like you've been like working out a lot and doing a million sit-ups. You're just like very sore. So definitely keep on top of it. Drink lots of water. Just a heads up, with all the pain medication you're taking and stuff, there can be constipation. You can get a lot of gas buildup, which makes you uncomfortable. So I highly recommend taking a stool softener and drinking lots and lots of water. I'm obviously not a medical professional, so I'm just telling you like what I recommend from my experience, but I'm sure the nurse came in and recommended the stool softener and stuff for me, and it definitely helps to kind of get everything moving in the right direction. Just make sure to pay attention to your body. Like, the nurses are there to help you if you're getting uncomfortable, if you need anything to eat or drink, or if you have any questions. Like, I definitely suggest don't be nervous to call the nurse. I felt like I was constantly like pushing the button and calling the nurses in. Even with my third pregnancy, like with the twins, I'm like, it's so crazy. Like, this is my third time being a mom, like having my third and fourth baby. And I still like question everything. Am I doing this right? Is this how this is supposed to look? Like, am I supposed to feel this way? So they're the professionals. They're there to help. Like, always ask questions. I always suggest too, like, make sure you're watching your body, keep an eye on your C-section, because they do look crazy. Don't, like, I remember the first C-section I had, I was like taking pictures and sending it to my doctors all the time. I was like, is this what it's supposed to look like? Is it supposed to be so bumpy? Or sometimes like your C-section will look like it's not like a straight line, and I was so worried that it would not heal correctly. But just give it time. Give your body time to heal. You're gonna be swollen. One side of your stomach might be bigger than the other side of your stomach. So don't freak out if things look a little weird at first. first. But if anything obviously like does not look right, like always reach out to a nurse or to the doctor just to make sure you're not getting an infection if it's super red and irritated or hot. So those are definitely signs that you want to be aware of as well. It's also normal too to feel some cramping. So for me, after having a C-section, like I would feel like a little bit worse than like period cramps. So I guess that's depending on how bad your period cramps are. I typically don't get cramping, so maybe it's just normal cramping, but you do feel like cramping around the C-section, and especially like as your uterus starts going back to normal, you kind of feel everything like shrinking back. I think another thing for me after having a C-section is like the first time that you have to like sneeze or cough, you don't know what to expect because there's so much pressure on your stomach. I remember that like just having to sneeze or something, I tried holding it in, but I don't know if that's like the best thing to do. But like I would hold my stomach, and because I was like, oh my gosh, what if it's too much pressure? Like what if my C-section scar is gonna like bust open or something like that? So it's definitely like a crazy feeling the first time that you need to like sneeze or cough or something. Just know when you do have to sneeze or cough, it is going to be a little bit uncomfortable. Any type of movement that you're going to be doing with your stomach is going to be very tender and very sore. And also just know that you are going to like balloon up. I feel like water retention and stuff gets worse with all the IVs, all the liquids and stuff that they're pumping into your body. So when you look back after delivery and you see pictures of yourself, don't be alarmed that your face is gonna be really swollen. Your hands are probably gonna be swollen. I remember my ankles and my feet were super swollen. I just felt like my lips were big. I just felt like so just like puffy and swollen, but it does go away very quickly. But just know that's another thing to definitely realize that's gonna happen. A piece of advice that I do want to give you is accept help. I am the worst person at accepting help and always want to do everything on my own. But when you get home from having a C-section, even if you feel fantastic, accept help. Accept help with dishes and cooking and laundry. Like, don't try to do everything. Having a C-section is a major surgery, and you do need to give your body time to heal. So if your husband can help, your boyfriend can help, your family, anybody that offers to help, definitely take the help. Take this time to just relax and heal and spend time with the baby or babies if you're having multiples, because I promise it's going to feel so much better on your body instead of just rushing and trying to do everything on your own. When you do feel better, you do get the urge to like want to do everything, and you don't want to overdo it. I remember there were a few times after my C-sections that I was like, oh, I've got it, I'm great. Like, especially if you have older kids and you try to take care of everything, I promise you, you'll feel like you take 5 steps forward and then take 10 steps back, because your body is going to tell you need to slow down. I hope this video answered some of your questions and helped ease your mind with knowing what to expect when going in for a C-section. And just remember that it is a major surgery. Just take time for yourself, take time to heal. Don't try to rush anything, and just use this time to take care of yourself and your beautiful new baby or babies. There's so many of you that have multiples now. I have to keep saying babies that follow me because of me having the twins. But if you guys have any other questions, like, feel free to reach out to me on Instagram. You can shoot me an email. I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys have regarding C-sections or multiples or pregnancy or anything like that. So go ahead and make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe, and I will see you guys soon. Thanks. Bye.